Mention Dust Bowl, and many people my age might think you're talking about a new college football championship. Who doesn't enjoy a good bowl game during the Christmas holidays? However, my grandparents' generation know, though, that the Dust Bowl was not a game. It was a real-life event that serves as a prime example that pushing the soil past its breaking point can create a national disaster. Could the Dirty 30s happen again? No one can predict the weather, and drought is still a reality more often than not in some parts of the United States. Thankfully, as we look to our past, we can learn why conservation saved us from another Dust Bowl. Overcoming the Dust Bowl, though, was much like a bit of a championship game for America. If we ever wanted to produce our own crops and livestock, there would need to be compromises and a coach to lead America to victory. The coach of this bowl game of conservation would be soil scientist Hugh Hammond Bennett. As a soil surveyor, he witnessed the sharp decline our environment was facing from soil erosion and recognized something had to be done. By traveling across the United States and rallying farmers and ranchers who had witnessed the heart-wrenching images, such as the black blizzards that occurred at 3 p.m. on summer afternoons, livestock with just skin and bones trying to garner enough energy, and soil piled high like 6-foot snowdrifts, he created the perfect team for implementing the plays to win the biggest bowl game our soil has ever withstood, the Dust Bowl. The first play Coach Hugh Hammond Bennett developed for his team of farmers and ranchers was planting shelter belts. Grove after grove of trees that would act as windbreaks and had roots that would encompass for miles to anchor in the soil. My great-grandpa was one of those early conservation-minded farmers in Edmonds County. In the 1950s, with the help of his local conservation district, he planted acres and acres of trees in the form of shelter belts. My grandpa has continued the legacy on that same ranch by planting trees for wildlife and livestock shelter each spring. With the football now in the hands of farmers and ranchers, Coach Hugh Hammond Bennett developed the second play that would prove whether or not his team was really committed to winning the Dust Bowl. The game plan would change from moldboard plowing to reduce tillage, such as no-till, planting cover crops, and increasing crop rotations. This was a game-changing play. Now the soil was being held on the landscape. Throughout the game, there were several touchdowns, with the introduction of CRP, which took the most highly erosive land out of crop production in exchange for native grasses and legumes that would provide home to deer, pheasants, birds, and pollinators such as bees. By land managers implementing rotational grazing, this provided periods for the grass to recover, which can be especially important during a drought. This was a touchdown for farm families to continue their livelihood, provide habitat for wildlife, and important for conservation, to build soil health and improve water and air quality. As the team reached the end zone with the ball in hand, there was one more very important play that would secure the win of the Great Dust Bowl. This was establishing the national associations that we have today, such as the Natural Resource Conservation Service and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and through state partnerships with the South Dakota Association of Conservation Districts and the South Dakota Department of Ag, which would go out and help people join the conservation movement. This year, Congress passed the 2014 Farm Bill, which will continue the nation's investment and streamline conservation efforts. The Farm Bill continues popular programs with farmers and ranchers, such as the Conservation Stewardship Program, which promotes building soil health by planting cover crops such as turnips and radishes, and through EQIP by planting forbs and legumes for bees. The United States is one of the world's most productive agricultural nations. And as our world population and demand for food rise, keeping our soil healthy is of paramount importance. In the 80 years since the Dirty 30s, the implementation of these conservation practices have saved us from another Dust Bowl. We don't always know when drought will occur, like in 2012, when the 5th worst drought in history struck the Midwest. Times were challenging, but soil erosion and black blizzards were prevented. Famous Notre Dame football coach Lou Holtz once said, "Life is 10% what happens to you, and 90% how you respond. American farmers and ranchers have come to learn that drought is a normal occurrence, and conservation is a key play in saving our resources. Thank you.